Not wanting to lose that momentum that they got from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah and Godzilla vs. Mothra, Toho decided to bring back not one but 3 more popular monsters. Okay, maybe not all of them could be considered popular, but the one that definitely gets remembered the most is none other than Mechagodzilla. I was always confused by this movie's title, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. Were they talking about Mechagodzilla 2 from Terror of Mechagodzilla that was upgraded from the previous Mechagodzilla and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla? No, because that Mechagodzilla got destroyed at the end of the movie. So then this must be the sequel to the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, right? Well, no, because the Heisei era's continuity doesn't acknowledge any Godzilla films after the original.
Right.
The original plan for Godzilla vs. Mothra was to have Mothra die at the end, but then later be resurrected as Mecha Mothra. But this idea was scrapped probably because it was too similar to how King Ghidorah got resurrected as a cyborg. Another lost idea was to have Mechagodzilla be able to split into 2 parts, which would later be repurposed for Mogira in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Takao Okawara would be brought back to direct, and this time there would be no unimportant subplots to distract from what we came to see, Godzilla. Akira Ifukube once again composes the musical score and would go on to create a main theme that gives me goosebumps whenever I listen to it. I'm guessing the reason I like it so much is that in the film there's a slow build up to it with this sort of quiet theme playing. And then BAM! The main theme hits. It's just such a powerful moment. Kenpachiro Satsuma was back to reprise his role as the irradiated lizard, and this time a new suit called Rado Goji was created, which I mentioned before. But who would play Godzilla Jr., Godzilla's son? The job would go to Hurricane Ryu, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because he played both King Ghidorah and Batra. Mechagodzilla himself would be played by Wataru Fukuda, no relation to the now retired from the Godzilla franchise Jun Fukuda. And despite its heavy appearance, the Mechagodzilla suit was actually quite light. Without further ado, this is my review on 1993's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. In the year 1992 AD, scientists used one of Mecha King Ghidorah's decaying heads to create 2 super weapons that are supposed to destroy Godzilla. One of those weapons was the Garuda, but proved too weak to kill Godzilla on its own. And the second weapon is none other than Mechagodzilla, whose arsenal feels like it's gonna go on forever. Huge shout out to whoever created this amazing title card. My attention will never be captured so perfectly. From there, we are introduced to our protagonist, Kazuma Oki, played by Masahiro Takashima. But Oki is disappointed when he's told he has to report straight to G-Force. Takashima would appear in other Toho films, including 1989's Gunhead, and would go on to appear in 1994's Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon, which bombed. We find out that Oki's hobby is studying pteranodons, and he gets trash-talked about it by his G-Force commanding officer. I recently discovered that that same officer was played by Tadao Takashima, who not only appeared in various Godzilla films before this one, but is also the dad of Masahiro Takashima. There's an effort to use American actors in the movie to, I guess, make it appeal more to Western audiences, but it just feels out of place. Meanwhile, a group of explorers is, exploring on an island when they find the bones of a pteranodon and a giant egg. They bring the egg back to base and begin to study it, but things don't quite go as they planned, and our pal Rodan swoops down and begins to destroy stuff.
Welcome to the jungle, we got fun and games.
Right as things seem like they can't get any worse, a blue beam of light is shot at Rodan and Godzilla emerges out of the water. Now this of course doesn't make any sense since Godzilla was trapped in the ocean by Mothra's magical powers in the last movie. Yeah, the movie does a pretty terrible job of explaining how Godzilla can literally break the laws of physics, but I'm just gonna let it slide for now because I don't want to make a 2-hour video about theories and all that stuff. An entirely new suit was created for the Big G's water scenes, and it's a shame it wasn't put to use more because it's the scariest the monster has ever looked. Special effects director Koichi Kawakita really gets creative with the fight scenes in this movie, and the only reason I've waited to bring him up now is that this film may have some of the best battles in the entire franchise. Godzilla and Rodan's battle is brought on land, and again, Koichi Kawakita really gets creative with these fight scenes. There's also such a big majority of different fight scenes. You have Godzilla vs. Rodan, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Rodan vs. Mechagodzilla, and Godzilla vs. Super Mechagodzilla. Whereas in Godzilla vs. Mothra, you have Godzilla vs. Mothra, which Batra interrupts, and then Godzilla vs. Mothra and Batra. Godzilla uses reverse psychology on Rodan by pretending he's unconscious, but then wakes back up and finishes him off. The explorers then depart in their helicopter with the egg, and Godzilla follows them, seeming confused. We are then introduced to our female protagonist of the movie, Azusa Gojo, played by Ryoko Sano. Oki barges in on the lab where Azusa is studying the egg and isn't really all that enthusiastic about leaving. Azusa even tells him he'll get a slap in the face if he doesn't leave. Geez, she needs to calm down. Megumi Otaka's Miki Saigasa character is back, but she's sidelined in favor of Oki and Azusa. We then flash to a school of psychic children, and the two women helping the children are played by the same woman who played the twin Mothra fairies in the last movie. And there's a nice little nod to that because the two women speak in unison just like the twin Mothra fairies. Then our ears are blessed by Akira Ifukube's The Psychic Chorus, which is beautiful but eerie, but I guess whatever was in that egg didn't like it as much as I did because it begins to crack and a little Godzilla is revealed. The original plan was to reuse Manila and everyone was on board with it except Okawara. Okawara would eventually win out and we would get the second closest thing to Manila, Baby Godzilla. Like a lot of fans, I am really happy that they didn't reuse the overweight pet rock that is Manila.
I'll be back.
But the trouble isn't over yet because Mickey senses Godzilla, and there's a nice little throwback in this scene to the 1964 Mothra vs. Godzilla film in which Ifukube recreates the main theme from that movie. They must have taken a huge chunk out of their explosion budget in this scene alone. The people at G-Force get a phone call and prepare to send Mechagodzilla to duke it out with the Big G for the first time since 1975. Now this scene isn't that good for two petty reasons of mine. One, Mechagodzilla looks super derpy, and two, the wire work is painfully obvious. We soon see that this incarnation of the mecha may be more powerful than Godzilla this time, knocking him to the ground. Mechagodzilla then shoots two electrical wires at Godzilla, which rip through his chest. Electricity starts to shoot through the wires, shocking Godzilla, but the plan backfires and Mechagodzilla starts to get shocked instead. Godzilla, realizing he has a fighting chance, gets up and body slams into Mechagodzilla, making him fall to the ground. Maybe the biggest mistake of Godzilla vs. Mothra was replacing the deep, terrifying roar with one that sounded more like the Showa era. And they don't even try to change it back to the good roar in this movie. Geez, some people just don't learn from their mistakes. Anyway, back to the movie. But the government isn't done with their plan of killing the giant lizard just yet, so they send in fighter jets and tanks to hopefully finish him off. Even this isn't enough to stop the king of the monsters because he wrecks them with ease. Godzilla then starts to head towards Kyoto as it's obnoxiously narrated by a news lady. He suddenly shoots his atomic breath at Kyoto Tower, laying waste to the famous landmark in this beautifully matted shot. Mickey and the people at G-Force, who are still with Baby Godzilla, develop a plan to try and hide from the king of the monsters. My favorite part about this scene is that they have no music at all, just to make it all the more suspenseful. But Godzilla isn't a half-wit this time around because he furiously smashes through the top of the building. Although, after he realizes his son's in there, he spares the humans. Come on, Godzilla, you had him. Despite the heartwarming Godzilla son moment, right after this scene it suddenly turns to nighttime. What? Yeah, so Oki builds a flying pteranodon sort of vehicle that you can ride on? Yeah, I don't know. Well, that sucks. We yet again get to hear the psychic chorus by Akira Ifukube, but this time it's in song form, although it's just lip-syncing and it doesn't hold up that well. But you guessed it, this angers Baby Godzilla and he starts ramming his body against the cage. And you know who else this angers? Rodan. Yep, you heard me right. Rodan is resurrected as Fire Rodan and begins to cause chaos around Tokyo. Meanwhile, Baby Godzilla is forced to go into a giant metal box, I don't know. But he's pretty angry about this, so Azusa goes in to comfort him. Our pal Rodan is back destroying Tokyo just like the good old days of 1956. Yeah, I'm not sure why an explosion goes off below wherever Rodan's flying. Remember that metal box that Baby Godzilla and Azusa got into earlier? Well, it was strapped to a helicopter for some reason. Still not sure why. But it doesn't really matter anyway because Rodan quickly destroys the helicopter, picks up the metal box, and flies away. G-Force wastes little time and launches Mechagodzilla and the Garuda to take care of the situation. Rodan begins to poke his beak at the metal box, creating a little hole that he can see Baby Godzilla and Azusa through. Oki goes in with the Garuda to try and distract Rodan from the metal box while Mechagodzilla prepares an attack. It isn't looking so good for Rodan as a building's dropped on him. While Mechagodzilla tries to finish him off, Rodan wakes back up and rips one of Mechagodzilla's eyes out. Although Rodan pays the price for it as he's shot backwards and starts foaming at the mouth. But the G-Force's troubles aren't over yet because Godzilla is spotted in Tokyo Bay and begins to head towards land. At first, Mechagodzilla has the upper hand, knocking Godzilla down with its Mega Buster ability. Being the irradiated reptile that he is, Godzilla just keeps marching forward and rams into Mechagodzilla. I love this shot of Mechagodzilla trying to get up, but then Godzilla just slams his head back into the ground. It's hilarious. But G-Force has a trick up their sleeve. Godzilla has a second brain located around his butt area, no, I'm not making this up, that they overload with electricity, ultimately leading to his death. Although Rodan isn't gonna let his pal Godzilla go out like that. That's right, they're best friends now, so Rodan converts his energy to Godzilla, leading to his death instead. Godzilla is resurrected to be even more powerful than before, and they even made his atomic breath look cooler. Mechagodzilla doesn't stand a chance against the Big G now as his diamond coating starts to melt off. Too bad Godzilla didn't have this ability in the previous movie, then he'd be able to defeat Batra and Mothra easily. But Mechagodzilla is destroyed, Godzilla is reunited with Baby Godzilla, and the movie ends. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 was released on December 11th, 1993 and was a success, but not nearly as much as Godzilla vs. Mothra was. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it was well paced with a good dose of human drama and a good dose of monster action. And don't even get me started with Akira Ifukube's phenomenal main theme. He does an amazing job even in one of his last Godzilla scores. But now we move on from one of my favorite films of the Heisei era to what most people consider to be the very worst. Next up, we dive into my review on 1994's Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla.
I'll be back.